This episode is brought to you by North Texas Honda Dealers. North Texas Honda Dealers, they're here to help.
He has time, launches it to the end zone. Touchdown! Terrence Williams!
The throw goes to the right side for Crabtree. It's caught. He he's the one. Red Raiders.
Bunty up the 10. Bunty up the right sideline.
He's got to go. He's tackled. Sam Houston wins it. The Bearcats capture their first FCS championship.
Hello and welcome to the Republic of Football midweek preview edition. Probably should come up with better titles for these two episodes that we do a week. But regardless, I'm your host, Ishmael Johnson.
How did you mess that up already?
What?
That.
The logo behind
I
us.
fixed it because you...
What do you mean?
I fixed it earlier.
What's happening?
Because
No.
It's like all small.
went to the
There's all the
bathroom
black ring
with
around
like
it.
2 seconds left, and
Oh
then
my God.
I
Hold
fixed
on.
it, and then it's now...
Hold on as I take care of this behind the scene. There, see? Happy. All right, see, there you go.
That's so much better.
People watching are like, or listening are like, what the heck is going on?
That was going to freak me out, honestly, if we didn't change it.
Fair
I'm
enough.
OCD, so it was
All
going to
right.
mess me up.
So anyway, now that I've taken care of the background screen, I'm the host, the college editor here at Texas Football, Ishmael Johnson, alongside Carter Yates and Mallory Hardley. How you
gosh.
guys doing?
That angle is terrible.
Look at. All right.
That's
Well,
my
look.
bad.
Listen. That's. I
Sorry.
only take care of what's on the screen behind me. All right. So
We've had a rough start. Look, okay, we've got a black ring around our logo. Camera angle's a little off. I'm not going to lie. I'm a little butthurt right now. I kind of sprained my tailbone earlier. But look, it's week 8. Everyone's playing injured.
Everyone's playing hurt.
Everyone's playing hurt. I'm podcasting hurt.
Yeah.
You know, we're going to gut it out today.
Right. Exactly.
Correct.
So and yeah. So we're just gonna. I mean, look. There's not much to talk about other than the games. I'll say this. As Mallory gets up to fix the camera. No, this is what people sign up for, okay? She's signaling me to not mention that. But we break the fourth wall. We bring the audience in.
Also, your black screen kind of fell a little bit.
Also, the black
too.
screen in the background kind of fell down. Anyway, it's off the rails right now. Anyway, this is what I like to call kind of the week of win or we stop caring. Because it's kind of like, I don't want to say win necessarily, like absolutely win, but at least show us what you got, or we can just really start
That's so true.
just putting teams to bed.
We've had, I think there's, correct me if I'm wrong, there's about 3 teams who we've put to bed already. There's a lot in the middle of the power pool, though, where it's like.
Well, so there's 3. I mean, not really. Oh, no, I'd say 2 teams. No, 3. Yeah, you're right. 3. I was.
who are those
assuming,
teams?
I'm assuming you think Sam, UTEP, and Baylor.
Yes. No, actually, I don't know.
Well, I was gonna
Baylor getting interesting now after that win for Cincinnati.
Is it?
It's not really getting that interesting, but the Iowa State game, this is win or we
I'll
stop
say,
caring. for
here's the
Baylor.
thing. Here's the thing. We've put 2 teams to bed, but 2 teams play each other. So then, therefore, there's intrigue in that, right? 2 teams played each other tonight. I should hint.
Yeah, the 2 teams who we've kind of put to bed are playing each other tonight on a Wednesday night Conference USA action, and whoever
Conference
loses
USA After Dark.
and whoever loses that game
Yes.
is just like
Yes.
shoved into the basement
8
of
feet
the-
under. 8
8
feet under.
feet under
Not
the
6 feet
ground.
under. 8 feet under. Yeah. So I would say, this is definitely the week where you gotta play. You gotta earn kind of because we like to preview every team. But obviously, the certain more important games, more meaningful games, get most of our discussion. You got to kind of play your way into the discussion from here on out, right? If you're getting blown out 53-0, it's like, okay, we're going to care less about the next week.
there's no more free press
100%
on this show.
100%. So we'll preview. Don't get us wrong. We will preview every single game this week. In particular, because again, 2 teams do play each other tonight. That I'm very intrigued, legitimately very intrigued by. That we'll get to in our games of the week. But this is kind of the play your way on episode. So before we get into that, though, Mallory, do you have the power poll for this week?
We sure do.
Okay, so some movement. Of course, the very top stayed the same. Texas. So let me just roll it off. Texas, SMU, Texas State, Texas A&M, UTSA, Rice, TCU, Houston, Texas Tech, Baylor, North Texas, UTEP, and Sam Houston. I mentioned the bottom 2 teams play each other tonight. That is one of our games of the week. We'll talk about in a bit. Texas holds on to the top spot after holding on against Houston. SMU did a little bit of a vault because they kind of do have the momentum. Texas State was idle, And I don't have an issue with that. Like SMU did look like they've looked like the better team on the field. Obviously, the power poll is like pound for pound kind of thing, but it does not surprise me that one of SMU's most impressive victories kind of lended itself to pushing them into that 2 slot. A&M, of course, was idle as well, so Texas State and A&M kind of keep their slots, and then UTSA kind of working their way up after kind of finding their groove in conference.
Here's kind of how I look at this power poll. The top 3, 4 of the top 5 teams have a chance to win their conference. That is Texas, SMU, Texas State, UTSA.
Yes.
Texas A&M, I will get to them in a second.
Right.
We are very close, like 1 loss away from the top of our power poll not having any national implications.
Yep.
If Texas has 1 more loss, they, 1, probably don't even get to the Big 12, but 2, they are for sure out of the college football playoff.
Yes.
SMU has 2 losses, so they're out of the CFP, but very much alive for New Year's Six Bowl. Texas State has a conference championship they're trying to contend for. A&M at number 4 might have the worst vibes of a number 4 team in our power poll of all time. Because
That's very true.
you go from 4, UTSA is contending, but 6 through 9 are like floating in purgatory of they are just fighting for bowl seating right now.
Right.
So we're in a precarious situation on this podcast.
Yes.
We are any given week away from none of these teams having any national implications. And that is kind of a nerve-wracking spot to be in.
No, 100% it is. I think that, it is kind of weird how, honestly, we'll get to the games this week. This week could just, you mentioned any week, this week in particular, in my opinion. Like, every one of these teams, except for SMU, I would say every one of these teams are kind of playing on their heels.
SMU's going to breeze this week.
Yes, we'll get to it, but SMU's going to breeze. A&M should breeze, but by the nature of the nature of their vibes, we're not necessarily. We kind of still have them on their heels, right? We're kind of like it's kind of like a don't mess up type of thing, right?
And Texas State for us ish, we're vulnerable.
Very vulnerable. So yes,
you got a big game. Texas doesn't have a quarterback.
Situation. Yeah, so it's all of it. There's shakiness everywhere except for maybe on the hilltop, in the top 5. So. With that being said, I mentioned it. Let's just get right to the games. There weren't many headlines, or at least if there were, they kind of coincide with the games that we're going to be watching. So, we'll talk about Quinn Ewers. We'll talk about all that situation as well when we get to that game. But let's start off with our Games of the Week segment. Mallory, where are we starting first?
Let's start with the Fighting Schmales, shall we?
Oh, God. All right.
This Saturday, Texas State hosting Troy at 6 p.m. You can watch it on ESPN+. Troy coming in as 5.5-point favorites. The over-under is 51.5. Schmel.
Yep.
How are your nerves right now? This game could potentially determine the West champion, correct?
Yes, it could. So for those of you that don't know, Louisiana lost last week to Georgia State. So that knocks them out of, I believe that put Troy, let me see, I have the standings right here. Yes, that puts them with 2 losses in conference now. South Alabama, who's also really good, Troy and Texas State. They all play each other, right? So this will sort itself out. But, of course, Texas State and Troy is the first matchup, I believe, of these 3 teams. So this will immediately put somebody in the driver's seat. Let me see. South Alabama has Texas State at the end of the year, and they have Troy in November. So next week. So this is going to get sorted out like in the next 2 weeks, more or less. Potentially at the end of the year if it needs to be between Texas State and USA. This is, no joke. This is probably the biggest game in 20 years since Texas State last made the FCS playoff. It's crazy. They're on the verge of bowl eligibility. Of course, they're at 5-2. And it's homecoming. Shout out Throwback Day.
Yeah, can you explain that sweatshirt actually before we even get to the game?
Yeah.
Like I want to know nice what this SWT means.
Oh, so Southwest Texas. Okay. That's right. You're young. It's young people on the show. Okay, so before Texas State became Texas State in 2000, there's some SWT fans yelling at me right now. Early 2000s. Or mid 2000s, I can't remember. There was Southwest Texas versus Texas State. I was about to say he definitely did not know about it.
No.
There became a name change from Southwest Texas State to Texas State University. Mm-hmm. Part of it was branding. There was, Southwest Texas State was kind of known as a party school, and it was like, oh, that's where you go if you don't want to do any work and all that.
Is that why you went there?
Yes, 100%. No. But there was a reputation with it. And a lot of it came from like state funding and all that stuff. So Texas State is much more branding better than Southwest Texas State.
Right.
And so, but of course, Bobcats, they were always the Bobcats. They won the national title as Southwest Texas State under Jim Wacker. But for the longest time, until about 3-4 years ago, they stayed away. When they changed to Texas State, they changed all branding and acknowledged nothing to do with Southwest Texas, right?
Wow.
Part of it was to establish Texas State as an identity, because they can't. The logic was you can't hold on to the past if we're trying to establish something new. But that alienated a lot of the fan base that still loved Southwest Texas.
They're kind of treating it like the drunk uncle.
Right,
like
a little
the
bit.
Party
It's
school.
basically it'd be if UTEP was like, we're never Texas Western. Which is insane, right? Like national title in basketball, like they're the same. Texas Western and UTEP are the same thing. And that's what a lot of people who ended up graduating from Texas State wanted to acknowledge about the past, saying, that's part of us, right? And a lot of people stopped acknowledging Texas State, like a lot of old alumni, out of anger. And so new administration comes in, or kind of the outgoing administration finally lets up. And then a couple years ago, they have their first ever throwback game where they wore Southwest Texas jerseys and all that. And so this past year, I believe earlier this week, actually, President Kelly Danfus and Don Coryell announced that every homecoming game will now be Throwback Day. And
that's nice.
That's cool.
So so now the university is selling, and they've started to sell Southwest Texas merch again. So it's a long-winded story of kind of a little bit of a history there. But yes, they're 10 plus years of now being Texas State, or 20 years of being Texas State, and 10 plus years of being in the FBS. Now it's like, okay, we have enough of a brand that nobody's going to be like, Southwest Texas, what's that? Or Texas State. You're comfortable acknowledging your past and having other branding outside of just your primary university.
So is this the biggest game as Texas State?
Yes. No, 100%. Yes. I mean,
the stakes are clear.
Again, so you have. I don't want to disrespect the playoff teams and all that. Like, obviously, the semifinal game that they ended up losing was the most important game, probably as Texas State, with David Bailiff. But I mean, Troy is really good. Their only big loss their only losses are Kansas State, and they lost a really close game to James Madison, who looks like the best Group of 5 team in the country. Right? I think they lost 16-14. So again, I can't even get to like on the field stuff because so much off the field like means a lot. I do think that this is going to be strength of Troy on offense, which is their passing offense, versus the weakness of Texas State, which is their secondary, which is going to potentially be really bad. And it also does not help that Texas State or Troy's defense, both in the run and the pass, are both really, really sound.
Troy's defense has given up 10 points in the last 3 games combined.
Yeah. It's
thoughts.
Texas State better hope that Ishmati's healthy. Because by the way, this is a plug for a piece we just put out. We had one question for every FBS program heading into the rest of the season from me, Carter, and Craven. My question was, is Madi actually the most important player for Texas State? Because every dip that they've had on offense comes with when he wasn't healthy or hasn't been as productive as he had been. And so I like TJ Finley. I do think he is the linchpin of this offense, but I think the most important player is going to be Madi and his game-breaking ability in the run game. I think he's still averaging like 7 yards a carry. So, yeah. So
I think he might have the club coming off this week.
Hopefully. Again, it wasn't a surprise to me that the offense did not get going when their running back had a club. He had
that doesn't
50
help.
yards on 13 carries. So he's going to be the key to it, legitimately. I think the defense is what it is. They just need to come up with a turnover here and there and generate something, because Gunnar Helm and those guys have that's the Texas commit. Gunnar Watson for Troy. Their quarterback has been dealing really, really well this season.
Well, in the passing game, you said versus secondary is going to be a big matchup, but also Troy's got 2 running backs averaging over 6 yards a carry.
Yes.
Kamani Vidal has 951 yards on the year. Damian Taylor also has, around 200-ish, but over 6 yards a carry. So it's not like they're slouches in the run game.
Right.
No. Troy tough.
No, they really are, which is crazy because, they're getting back to what Neil Brown, kind of how Neil Brown got the West Virginia job, which is just like this team that they've always been kind of known for offense, but then you would just look up and it's like, oh, by the way, here's a DeMarcus Ware coming out. Here are these pass rushers or this defense that would just be able to wreck shop if they ever got them the same years they were able to produce an offense. And it seems to be one of those years. Gunnar Watson's a very veteran quarterback, so Yeah, I'm very nervous. I will also be on scene for this game. So yeah, I will be in attendance, and they're already trying to make this a pretty historic crowd after 27,000 showed up to ULM.
You've been stoic this week in the office. You're walking around like a guy who knows how big of a game this is on Saturday.
I'm very calm. Because I've
You haven't heard much from you.
Huh?
I haven't heard much from you. So.
Yeah, it's just
He's been locked in, honestly.
Yeah, I
it's
guess
been
so.
Look, listen, I'm very cautiously optimistic. I trust this coaching staff, but I also, I've seen the weaknesses of this team, and I've seen them compete against Louisiana, but also really struggle for 3 quarters against ULM. So I'm very weighted right now.
So what's the point? What's the point where you go all in? Because you're like cautiously optimistic. You're like, oh, I don't like that Texas State's at 3 in the power poll. Like, when are you like all in?
If they win this game,
Really?
100%. I mean, like, I'm happy. Don't get me wrong. Like, this is still like 5-2, awesome.
But
And
you're
if they
guarding
get to
your heart. You're guarding your heart.
Yes, 100%. And it's also like when that 6th win is achieved, win/if, then it'll be like awesome. Then it's like everything else smooth sailing, right? Whether they make the conference title, don't host it, don't whatever. It's that 6th win. So it can come this week. It can get blown 60-0, but win next week. I'm like, hey, look, let's go. So it's very guarded. Because I'm also like, it's not in that mode yet where I need to be bated breath. It's not, the stakes aren't that high yet. They're 5-2. Like, everything's really pretty up here right now.
Yeah, right.
So I'm trying not to take them higher, because then that just makes the fall worse. But I'm also not down in the dumps about this team. I think this team's good. So I'm very weighted about this.
You've been even keeled for sure.
Very even. Again, that also comes from, like, I was a beat writer for this team. So, like, it is, unless I'm watching the game, like, as a fan, it is hard for me to, like, sometimes analyze this and be like, oh, they're going to the conference championship, or we're going all in like that, because sometimes you do have to be like, well, actually that defensive line hasn't gotten a pass rush in a couple weeks. You have to look at it. You're forced to look at it more analytically when you've covered it for good and bad for a living. So
Right.
yeah. So but what's the spread? Let's do the. Sorry, I didn't do the picks.
5.5.
5.5. Oh,
Wait, which way?
it's Troy.
Troy.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Troy. Favored by 5.5.
Oh. Some people will call it a reverse jinx, but I think Troy takes it. I'm gonna give him a touchdown.
I think
Okay.
Texas State wins.
Okay.
I'll stand
go
on the
with Fighting
table.
Schmales.
I'll stand on the table for the fighting Schmales. I know my boys. They're off a bye week.
They are off a
You
bye
know,
week.
they're
True.
rested.
That's a huge thing for them
They've had
too.
2 weeks to prepare for this one. I think Troy. Well, I think Troy's also off a bye week.
Oh shoot!
I just think the vibes are too good in San Marcos right now.
They are really
The game's
good.
at home too. It's homecoming. Like I think they're gonna be feeling themselves this week.
They are really good.
Yeah.
I think you're picking Troy because you don't want to go all in just yet.
Yeah. He's
I'll
being,
do.
I'm hesitant.
again,
I'm wary.
cautiously
I'm wary.
optimistic.
I'm wary. I say a touch. It's. I don't think it's gonna be a blowout, but I'll say a touchdown. I'll say. So.
Okay. I'll take it. Moving on to our next game of the week. Rice hosting at number 22 Tulane this Saturday at 3 p.m. You can watch it on ESPN2. Tulane coming in as 11.5-point favorites. Over under 54.5. Hoot
All right.
hoot.
I'm gonna give you a little bit of hint. Carter. I don't know if you saw my question on the FBS piece. I'm gonna give you a little bit of a hint. Could Rice compete for the AAC?
That's what we have to start asking
Bro.
if they win this game. If they win, I'm
Here's
not ready to
here's the
say
thi-
it yet.
Here's the thing. I'm not either. It's literally that's what the piece. By the way, go check it out. That's what the piece is just asking. It proposes the question and why that's a possibility. I'm not saying that UNT kind of gave the blueprint last week, but this Tulane secondary, it's a little soft.
They exposed them last
It's a
week.
little soft. Now, of course, that involved Tulane kind of not North Texas making some good adjustments on defense to be able to hold Tulane more or less scoreless for most of the second half. That's one thing that we have yet to see from this Rice defense outside of last week where they had the game of their life. But we've said UNT and Rice are going to catch some teams off guard these next couple weeks. UNT almost did last week. Mm-hmm. They may in another game this week. Is it Rice? Is it Rice's turn?
Well, the Rice defense doesn't have to play with their hair on fire, but
No,
they
they're just-
need to be opportunistic.
I literally, yeah. The exact question I phrased in the piece was, if Rice's defense is average,
Yeah.
can they be average?
Bend,
And
don't
then
break.
is that enough to propel them to compete in the AAC?
I think if JT Daniels is
Yeah.
able to backpack the offense, and we'll see if he can do it versus Tulane secondary that kind of got exposed versus UNT. Like if he's the guy that can elevate that entire team, which he has done up to this point, then yes. But the other thing is this Tulane team is a different caliber of opponent than Rice has faced in years.
Very true.
Like in Conference USA, they didn't have a team like this.
No.
Like this team is more closer to like a Power 5 Big 12 team than anything they played in Conference USA.
To be fair, they beat one of those already this year.
Yeah, that's true.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. Like
So again, I'm not disagreeing with you, right? By the way, I'm not saying like Tulane is like outside of Texas and whatever you think about Houston, Texas and Houston, they're by far the best team that they've seen. And it is gonna. I mean, yes, it's still gonna come down to JT Daniels. Yes, just one or two plays from this defense, right? Literally one or
interception
two.
or a fumble.
What was the fumble that swung the game against Tulane? Because wasn't it an end zone fumble by Michael Pratt?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
They thought they were going to go up 21-0 or something, and ended up swinging. They ended up getting a fumble, like a little something like that.
Yeah.
Is going to go has to go this way for Rice. I think they got the confidence boost last week. Again, I've called it. I think Craven might have predicted in his 4-on-1 that he thinks UNT is going to upset a team in the next 3 weeks. In
that absolute gauntlet.
Yes. I don't want to put a guarantee for Rice, but this is the stretch that they would. I think with Tulane, SMU, UTSA coming up, I think they can really catch one, maybe two of those off guard.
Here's a worrying stat.
Sure.
Tulane has run for 100 yards in 92 of their last 96 games.
Yeah. And Rice can't defend the run.
And Rice can't defend the run very well.
Rice is, look, they can't defend anything. Their secondary is bad. Their front four has been bad. Until last week. Again, is it just Tulsa's bad? Probably. But also, their defense hasn't been able to stop bad teams either. So, I legitimately don't know.
But maybe that's the confidence game they needed to go into this game. That's what happened to UNT, too, when they played Temple and got all that confidence when they played a really bad offense.
That's true. That is very true. So,
and then played really well versus Tulane.
Yeah, I do see a lot of Rice people on social. They're trying to get their home attendance going. There is some steam behind the team, so we'll see.
They'll get free gummy worms.
They'll get free gummy worms as well. By the way, yes, go check out Carter's piece over Daniel Domian, the Rice gummy worm guy, who's a strength and conditioning analyst. Intern?
He's a student at Texas A&M right now, about to graduate in December in an internship course. Yeah,
it's a really good breakdown over the unusual but like kind of logical science behind like
there is some logical science to it. Yeah,
sugar, like sugars during working out and things like that. Basically refueling in a way.
It's about those glucose reserves.
Exactly. So go check that out. And then yes, Rice is giving away gummy worms to its first 1,000 fans or something like that. And then of course Tulane being not too far down the road should be a good crowd. So.
Who do you think? Who's the better quarterback, JT Daniels or Michael Pratt? I feel like they're pretty similar.
This is such a good QB duel.
I know because like
they're very similar.
They're very similar, and also like similarly they've had a similar career as well. Like Michael Pratt's been okay. Like he hasn't been a game breaking. Like last year was a lot of Tajay Spears for Tulane, but he's been reliable. Similar to JT Daniels, he's been reliable. But this year they've both kind of been in their own way, within both offenses. I think Michael Pratt's been taking his game to a new level. So yeah, I think I would go Pratt just for consistency's sake. His teams have been better, but I don't know.
I'd go consistency Pratt, but upside talent JT Daniels.
Sure, I think so.
Raw talent. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, Pratt is on 70% completion this year, 1,100 yards passing, 12 touchdowns, 2 picks.
And
he's an efficiency, and he's missed like 2 games too. So he's on an efficiency masterclass right now.
What JT Daniels is doing with this Rice offense is unbelievable.
Sure, no, 100%. They are one of the last. I think I put this stat out there too. They're one of the last teams in rushing percentage, like rushing plays they call. I think they call 37% of their plays are rushing. And then everything else is passing, and they're still top 40 in yards per play and points per drive. Like they are, it is all him.
What is Rice's record without JT Daniels this year? You know, that's something you ask about when you're comparing.
I don't know.
Probably winless.
Michael Pratt and JT Daniels.
No, they beat Texas Southern. That's it. But that's the only team. Like that's it by far.
Yeah.
So,
all right.
Yeah.
Rice covers.
Interesting. You know what? Screw it. Rice covers.
Yeah.
All right. I love it. All right, moving on to our final game of the week. Happening tonight, Sam Houston hosting UTEP in Conference USA After Dark Showdown. Kickoff at 7 p.m. You can watch it on ESPN2. Sam Houston. coming in as 3.5-point favorites.
How?
Over under?
Listen,
Over under.
I'll tell you how.
36.5.
it's disgusting. I will tell you how. I know we've talked about how bad Sam's offense has been. Did you see that offense for UTEP against New Mexico State?
I did. It was not good.
Cade McConnell.
Terrible.
I mean, I texted Craven. I think I messaged Craven on Slack. I was like, are they just afraid to let Cade McConnell throw?
You
'Cause,
could
like-
see the coaches did not trust him.
Right. And if it's still him, which I've seen no indication that Gavin Hardison's been practicing or what's been going on. Maybe we'll see some stuff before halftime or before kickoff. If it's still Cade McConnell, I've said it. I know I've said it the past 2 weeks, but if it's still Cade McConnell, like for the first time ever, is Sam going to have the quarterback advantage in this game?
You can't. Okay, Cade McConnell is your 4-string quarterback. You can't play your 4-string quarterback and be like, "Oh, I don't trust him." When there's who are the two other guys?
No, exactly.
Yeah.
No, 100%.
Play one of the two other guys. Then
I think the other thing was Dana Demmel put after the game. He was like, "Yeah, I think he was pretty good and he handled himself well." And I was like,
dude,
handle what? No, I looked at it, I was like, what? Excuse me? Like, yes, he handled himself well for what you gave him, but you didn't
Yeah.
give him much to work with.
Look, they didn't give him much to work with. Cade McConnell, he is not experienced. He's going to be better tonight, but that game was very tough. I mean, he was throwing guys like just out of bounds.
15 of 32, 179, 46% completion, sacked 4 times. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
it
again, a
wasn't
lot of
good.
and those passes weren't like part of it was Kelly Akari. They were like, hey, they got one receiver. Let's make sure he's not open. And so, like, Kelly Akari, I think, had, like, 1 catch maybe after his great game the week before. But everything else was just like, all right, keep it simple. And it was, like, almost detrimentally simple. It was like if he was completing a pass, like you mentioned, if he tried to go anything outside the hashes, it seemed like he sailed it. But also, like, everything they were calling was like, well, we're just going to keep it. If it's 3rd and 8, it's going to be a 5-yard hitch or something. It was like, oh, this is very much training wheels a little bit, it felt like.
And you know what? They're still going to beat Sam Houston tonight.
You think so?
Because that FIU game, I kid you not, I think it ended the year for Sam
think so?
Houston. I think that win, like not that game. That game you should have won, and it was so close you could taste it, and you lost that game, and that for the team morale, I think is too much to overcome for the rest of the year now at 0-7. I think that was the game.
It's so disappointing too because like they've played these teams so well this year, and they had such a bright upside, for a while.
They are not a bad football team.
No, they're not at all.
No, they're really not.
But the problem is once you stack 7 losses together, it is so ingrained in your mind that you coach scared, you play scared, you pooch kick with 84 seconds left, you don't do the things required to win a game, and it becomes a mindset over athleticism type deal.
Yeah. I know I've said this the last 2 weeks, but I do think this is the week.
I do too.
No,
I know.
I don't.
I know.
No.
I know.
You guys are falling into it again.
Here's the thing. Here's why I believe it mostly. Is because we can acknowledge that Sam Houston's 0-7, and we can all sit here and say this is a team that's played better than its record, is better than its record. UTEP is 2-6, and they're probably worse than their record.
I was just about to say that. Yeah.
They're probably worse than that. They've beaten Incarnate Word and FIU, both by basically the same margin. We talk about them like they are 0-7. And the thing is, we're not like, but we never bring up, well, they're actually 2-6, and they're actually, it's like, we're like, no, it's over. Like that for them.
Yeah.
And so I feel like, to me, you're right in terms of like, that gets into a locker room, that kind of mentality where it's just like everything you've done, worked for, is just like gone wrong. And I get that does build up. But to me, that's when, again, that's part of, and that's going to be the challenge for Casey Keeler and this coaching staff is like, what do you tell these guys to play for, right? At this point, it is pride. Right? At this point, you're not going to, obviously, you weren't going to a bowl anyway, but like, it is also like, again, they know that there's no way that those guys are like, we're 0-7 and we're just trash. They're seeing like how close they are to this, right? And so to me, if that's the job of Casey Keeler and this staff is saying, again, yeah, you're not, a lot of you seniors, you're not playing for next year, right? You're not playing to build. You're moving on after this. But is this, like, again, you want to end this going 0-10 or whatever? Like, you realize how close you are to knocking down this wall. And it's just like, sometimes you just got to push it through. And you're right. The coaching staff hasn't helped either when you pooch kick with, under a minute to go and they drive down and tie the game. But again, that's a challenge for this coaching staff to get that mindset out. Like sometimes you just gotta. The vibes are bad, but it's not. I don't feel like they're hopeless, right? That's the one thing I don't get. Right? I don't see them being like, it's so over. We're never doing, because we see the silver lining. We see what they're able to do well. We see the offense be able to throw the ball a little bit in conference. Running game is what it is. But we see like the little kernels, and it's like every week there's like a new little thing that they're able to like do better. So
if they had pulled out that FIU win, I'm taking Sam Houston to roll tonight.
Sure.
But that loss, I just feel like is so disheartening because like you want the win so bad, you want not to go winless so bad that you play your way into being winless and out of winning those games.
Yeah.
Because you just can't get out of your own way.
You're not wrong, and it is something to. I mean, it is going to be something to monitor if they drop this game or even how they head into this game. Right? It's supposed to be. It's another midweek game. Remember, Craven keeps mentioning how they don't play a Saturday home game till like next month. Yeah.
Right?
So it's going to be another.
So much. I love it. I love midweek conference USA.
I like watching it, but like if I'm a student there, I'm like, I got class tomorrow, man. Give me a Saturday to go
like,
to.
Let me just go to this football game right after class.
Right.
Real
It's like,
quick.
I got like midterms are coming up too, so it's like,
Yeah.
give me a Saturday to do something.
That is true.
Well, as a national media figure, yes, I love it. But yes, as a student, as an alum, it's like, you live in Houston. You don't want to drive to Huntsville to go to the game on a Wednesday.
Right.
It's like, no, I'm not doing that hour and a half, 2 hour drive back. So it's been weird home environments too. So like, I don't know. It's almost like it's been its own season almost. It feels like it's kind of like been because it's been on weekdays, there's been like a separate season going on in like an alternate reality.
It doesn't
in
feel like
Huntsville.
it's college football.
It
feels like it's.
It feels like something else. Because again, it's like every week. It was like the first. It felt that way with week 0. It feels like week 0.
Week 0,
almost like a week 0 universe, where it's just like it's just going on over here. It's always on the week.
Conference USA
it's always like
universe.
when we're recording. It's always tonight. Things like that, and it's like. You look around Saturday, you're like, did Sam? All right, they played on Wednesday. Every time that happens.
It's kind of a nice ramp up for me into the college football slate of the weekend, though.
That's fair.
You take off. We do the ROF podcast Sunday. I kind of flush it Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. Reset. My mind, and then I get to ease back in with a little Conference USA after dark, and it's kind of like all the diabetes commercials that you get, and then the video board just being the broadcast feed too. It's its own little quirky type deal.
Yes.
And then you're like, all right, I'm ready for football again for the rest of the week.
100%. As a national / regional consumer of the sport, yes, love it.
As a student, that would. Yeah, I didn't even think about that.
Hate it.
Students, that's tough.
Yeah.
Last thing on this game before we move on, real quickly. If Sam Houston does pull out the win, what are the vibes in UTEP? What's going on? What's up with Dan?
I think we'll know something within the next week or so. I feel like that's not me reporting anything. I don't want to get that misconstrued. I feel like if they lose this game, things become very clear within like the next week or so. Not saying a move is made, but things will become very clear where they're going in the next week or so.
That's why it's the Anxiety Bowl. It's
The
because
Anxiety Bowl.
if Sam Houston loses, they probably do go winless. Like this is probably the last best chance. And then UTEP, if you lose this, it's like, where is your program going right now?
Yeah. Yep, that's very
it's
true.
Total Anxiety Bowl tonight on Wednesday.
That being said,
Yep.
I'm with you, Mallory. Give me Sam.
Correct.
Give me
Let's get
UTEP.
Just not optimistic. Not that I'm rooting for Sam Houston over UTEP. I'm just picking them. Okay, let's switch into the wide zone here. Houston playing at Kansas State this Saturday at 11 a.m. You can watch it on ESPN2. Kansas State coming in as 17-point favorites.
Ooh.
The over-under is 60.5.
Bros, Kansas State is humming right now.
They
are
really
going full
are.
Kansas State right now.
This is actually the most Kansas State year that Kansas State's had in a while.
Yeah. I think Colin Klein cried a little bit because he sees him 2.0 and Avery Johnson. He's just like, oh my God, this guy he just runs this offense so perfectly, and he's just shedding tears as this kid gets like a 6-yard run. And he's like, oh, this is exactly like me.
Oh, it's so great. Just 10 passes a game,
right?
5 rushing touchdowns,
and then it's like Will Howard. They got the veteran leadership too, but they got this kid who has some spunk behind it. It's gonna listen. I think this is gonna be a bad day for Houston.
I think it is
too. Yeah,
because the loss against Texas is so gut wrenching, and then you go from Texas to playing this absolute wagon right now, Kansas State.
Oh, yeah. DJ Giddens is playing phenomenally, too. I think he's averaging, 6 yards a carry? Listen, as much as what Houston showed on defense last week, a lot of that had to do with their back end of their defense versus what Texas wasn't able to generate kind of in the passing game. They still weren't able to stop the run. And guess what Kansas is supposed to do?
Let me tell you something. Pop on that Kansas State film and watch that Texas Tech game and how their Texas Tech's defensive linemen are just swallowed up.
Or just watch last week when they did the same to TCU, right? Yep. Where it's like TCU. We didn't even talk about TCU's offense much in the recap to that game because we were like, what were they like? They had no shot because they were down 21-0 in an instant. Their defense had no shot against Kansas State, and so therefore their offense had no shot because all of a sudden they're chasing a game with a freshman. So it was like we gave them we didn't even talk about the offense because it was like, I don't know, man, you're down 3 touchdowns with a freshman. Like, what do you want to do?
Look, there's a video circling around on X right now of Cooper Beebe from Kansas State, the offensive lineman, saying,
"Oh yes, I do.
I love when you crush a team's soul and realize they've quit." Like we looked at TCU and they were laughing down 30, and
that did happen.
It's a bye week, and TCU's catching strays right now. Like, hey, what the?
They're losing in their bye week.
Actually lost the bye week.
Yeah, they've lost the bye week.
So I don't often like doing speed analysis of a lot of teams because I feel like every player is more or less different. Like in terms of the fast players are going to run 22 miles an hour. Like this is how they are. Mm-hmm. But it is interesting to see what kind of players when you don't think of them as burners necessarily. Mm-hmm. You think of them as good runners and athletic, but not necessarily burners or the speedsters. Avery Johnson, according to Real Analytics, hit a speed of 20.3 last week on a 30-yard run.
It's crazy because he doesn't look that fast.
He's not.
Yeah, he's such a strider.
He's such a strider. It looks effortless, and it's like, oh my! And again, this is the thing with this is how their system works in terms of 2 quarterbacks. You know they're running the ball with him, and it just doesn't matter. Like the 30-yard run is just a power sweep. There's no one in the backfield. He just takes the ball and goes, and he just hits the hole, and boom, 30 yards. And you're like, that's against FBS players as a freshman. He's awesome. So
he also looks like the 4th Hansen brother.
Oh, he looks phenomenal. He's gonna play like Thor's younger self in the next Marvel movie. So
he looks like Thor Ragnarok's younger son, or the next Thor coming in.
100%. So sorry Houston, this is turned into a Kansas State podcast there for a minute because I just don't think there's any way. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I think Houston's going in the right direction, but I just think they're running into a buzzsaw right now.
Kansas State's looking like what we thought they would at the beginning of the year.
Do you take Kansas State to cover?
Yeah, I think I will. That's a lot, but I think I will take it still.
Yeah. Whew, tough one. All right, another tough one. Let's move on. Texas A&M hosting South Carolina this Saturday at 11 a.m. You can watch it on ESPN. Texas A&M coming in as 14-point favorites. The over-under set at 54.5.
Dude, you talk about anxiety bowl.
Yeah.
Listen, so this one.
I ain't falling for that spread.
What was the spread again?
Texas A&M 14.5.
Nope.
Yeah, no,
No,
I don't think
I'm
so.
not getting trapped in that.
Spencer Rattler.
Here's
it's the Spencer Rattler show.
You're right. I'm not saying that he can't put on a show, but he can put on a show for either team. Right? That's kind of the thing with Spencer Rattler, is that he could throw for 300 yards and 3 touchdowns, but there could be 3 picks to go with that too. I don't know how much to take from last week's game against Missouri. Obviously, Missouri looks really good, so I don't want to say well, they lost last week, so therefore they're not good. I do think they've taken a step back this year. But this game is going to be a lot on Spencer Rattler's shoulders. Their defense is not good, and they can't run the ball.
He's going to be the MVP no matter what. It just depends on it's South Carolina or Texas A&M.
And I was about to say that's why I think A&M will cover in this one, is because as bad as A&M's defense has been whenever you've been able to get past them, I don't think they're going to let Spencer Rattler breathe or have time to make the correct decision. I think they're going to force him to press a little bit. And that's all they need. I'm not saying the offense is going to light him up, but I think we could see a similar-ish 28-10 type score.
I agree, but Texas A&M's secondary has been kind of shaky, and
it has.
South Carolina's got a wide receiver, Xavier Leggett, who's 6'3", 227 pounds, has 700 receiving yards. So the next guy has 200. That could be an issue.
It could. I mean, if you're a receiver as Alabama saw with was it Luther Burton?
Jermaine Burton.
Jermaine Burton. Luther Burton's at Missouri. Jermaine Burton, if you're just looking for a receiver to break out, A&M's the team you want to play. So yeah, I think I'm gonna go. I think I'm still gonna lean A&M, but everybody here knows the X factor, and it's the guy playing quarterback, not for Texas A&M.
Yeah,
right. It just depends on what type of game.
Do we get
Spencer
a good
Rattler.
game? Yeah, right. Exactly.
I'm trying to look up their numbers and like see where he kind of coincides. So he is, honestly, it's kind of weird. Like the more passes he's thrown, not necessarily the better they've done, which is probably goes to say enough.
Yeah. What's the ratio? What's the turnover ratio?
Ooh, let me see. So he has on the year
it's like 11-5.
He has 11-5 right now. Yes.
Okay.
And so not bad, but he also is taking 29 sacks this year.
Oh man.
And
well, that doesn't say
if there's
much.
one thing about A&M, they love to get after the quarterback.
They sure do. Yeah.
Yeah.
They did to Peyton Thorne in Auburn.
Yeah, he's only not thrown a pick in one game this year, but he's only had one multi-pick game, which was Georgia.
Okay, well that's.
So are we due, or has he turned it around?
I think
Are we
Texas
due?
A&M wins 21-13, and Spencer Rattler takes 8 sacks.
That's fair. You know what? I will say this: we haven't had an A&M game where like they win and nobody's happy. We haven't had that type of game this year yet.
Yeah.
This is gonna be like the weakest win.
Yes.
I think this
I
is
feel
gonna
like
be
that's
like
like a
they win and everyone's still like, ew.
That's a staple of like A&M seasons where you have like one or two games where they win and you're like, well, what's the meme? It's like I didn't like any of that. Yeah. So like I feel like we're due for that type of game.
The mid-October, late October, early November.
Right. Last year was the Miami game. 2021, I think it was like the Colorado game where it was like 10-7. You're just like, what? You're just like, what am I watching? You know.
Gross.
But they're wins, but you can't complain. But then you just like, So I think we're due for that. I like that. I'm still gonna pick them to cover, but I would not be shocked if this is the ugly one.
Yeah. Oof. All right, let's move on here to another ugly one. SMU hosting Tulsa this Saturday at 11 a.m. You can watch it on ESPNU. SMU coming in as 20.5-point favorites.
Yeah.
Over-under is 57.5. I really have no doubts here.
No,
SMU.
this is the surest bet I think I've made, which,
Yeah,
only knock on wood just for that. But Carter did put out a good story over Preston Stone and Jonathan McGill, kind of their connection going back to Coppell youth football.
Youth football circuit.
And kind of how they're the new leaders of kind of this era of SMU. Mm-hmm. This is a comfortable walk for me. I think I would like to see, I don't know if we'll see it because, again, they don't need to do that much to win this one probably. I would like to see something like last week where we saw a little bit of explosion, right?
P. Shiesty.
Yeah, a little bit of P. Shiesty out there. Honestly,
Did you just come up with that on the spot?
No, the SMU Twitter account tweeted that.
Oh, God.
It was like he ran for a touchdown. They're like, P. Shiesty. I was like, I did a double take. I was like, was this like a fan account?
Hey, you can't steal that from Joe Burrow.
Listen,
Joe Burrow is
this
Joe
year that
Shiesty,
thing's on
so-
loan right now. This year
it's on
this year you can
loan.
loan out that nickname for this
Correct.
year
Right.
until things turn around in
You're
Cincinnati.
right.
But was it like Maserati Marv? They're just trying to make it.
Yeah.
Maserati Marv.
I went back and listened because I was watching that game, a lot of that game on mute, and I just could not remember. I was like, he was calling him what? And I looked back and watched some of the highlights. I was like, oh no,
It was a lot.
It was a lot. Yeah.
Maybe we can start doing that for P. Shiesty.
Just start tweeting P.
Look,
Shiesty.
there's a vacuum. There's the P. Shiesty crown has been abdicated by Joe Burrow this season, and there's a
but-
fight to get it.
But it's not like they were calling him Maserati Marv. Gus Johnson made that up on the spot, right?
Yeah.
So that's what
he
we
went
need
into
to
the
pick a
game was
player.
like,
We need to
he just
pick
thought of an alliteration on his mind.
Yeah.
He was like, oh, that's
And
two
then
words.
shoved it down our throat.
That's what I'm
for an
saying. We need to
entire
pick a
game.
random player in college football in Texas and just give him a nickname and just roll with it. Like we got to pick like JT Daniels or something. We got to give him our own
Chili
nickname.
Chandler Rogers, something like that. Oh, no,
Chili Chandler.
Chili Chandler.
Chili Chandler on a game-winning drive. Chili Chandler, kind of like
I
Matty
like
Ice.
that. I'm not
Kind of like Matty
opposed.
Ice.
That's a good one.
If they're in a game-winning drive, we'll get to this game in a bit, obviously. But if they're in a game-winning drive this weekend, you got to tweet out "Chili." Nobody stops Chili Chandler.
Terrible.
I'm
Awful.
joking. That sounds awful.
Yeah,
if we do
that's
invent
bad.
one, it has to be a good one.
Yeah,
if we do just
Let's
come up with
workshop after we turn the mics off.
Workshop.
for a second.
By the way, this goes just to show you how much we think about this game. SMU should roll. Absolutely.
Yeah,
Tulsa's
literally.
been not good at all. So, yeah.
All right. Speaking of that game, let's head to it. North Texas hosting Memphis for their homecoming game this Saturday at 2 p.m. You can watch it on ESPN Plus. Memphis coming in as 7.5-point favorites. The over/under is 67.5. It is
67.
It's North Texas's homecoming, but it's also Seth Hennigan's homecoming.
It is Seth Hennigan's homecoming. He might have his own section.
He might. His
support
entire
section.
family.
Listen, this Memphis team is like very confusing because I'm on one hand I'm like, they're Memphis, so they're one of the staples of AAC, but also I feel like the top of the conference has taken like a little bit of a step past them, right? And so I feel like they're in danger of kind of getting left in the middle. This game could be potentially a game where they get one step back into the rest of the pool, right? I don't know, because the game against Tulane, I know they only lost by like 10, but a lot of that game I was like, Tulane's on another level right now, and I never felt confident. And I don't want to say Seth Hand's taking a step back, but I think he stagnated a little bit. He came on really hot as a freshman. Last year, I think he took a step, probably a small step down, and I feel like he's just kind of been fine ever since. And part of that is not on him. I know that there's been some questions. Split Zone Duo has talked about it, like Ryan Silverfield's recruiting and things like that hasn't necessarily been up to snuff what Memphis is used to with like Jay Norvell and Justin Fuente. But I've seen enough from North Texas to be like, this team is gettable, very gettable.
The thing is that North Texas has to learn how to close out games. I was listening to Eric Morris's press conference, and he said it was the Tulane game was the third time this year they've had the ball with a chance to win the game and didn't do it.
Yeah.
And the stat that worries me for this game is Memphis is 4th in the nation, allowing 27% conversion rate on third down when they're on defense.
Ooh, yeah, that's tough.
North Texas is 111th in the same stat.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
It
gotta get off the field.
feels
Gotta
it
get off the
feels
field.
like Memphis is the most vulnerable of this 4-game gauntlet. Like you said, Ish, it's like they're in this no man's land. They're in this own little bubble of like, I think Tulane and SMU are at the top of the conference, maybe UTSA.
I was about to say, I put UTSA right now. I put them past Memphis, right?
and then
right
and
now.
then it's a clear step down Memphis, and then it's like Rice and UNT.
Yeah.
At the very middle of the conference. So it's like, North Texas, do you move into the echelon with Memphis, or are you still going to be like fighting for a bowl win this year?
Mallory, what are you thinking?
I don't know. I think just looking at this Memphis team, I think they're pretty legit. Their 2 losses, you said Tulane by 10, and then they played obviously now a really tough Missouri team, and they only lost by like
That's a
5
good
or
point.
6. I just feel like and going back to last year's game too, because Memphis and North Texas played last year, it was such a weird game. I feel like it just went so back and forth. It was like, remember, Memphis took like an early lead, and then North Texas was able to catch back up, but then Memphis was able to take another lead or whatever, and North Texas just wasn't able to keep up with that. I honestly feel like that's how this game is going to go too. I think maybe Memphis jumps out early, just like Tulane did. North Texas is able to catch back up, but I think Memphis does score an extra touchdown or 2 where North Texas might not be able to catch up. I think it goes very similar to how we saw last year in that matchup.
I think one of the things that I think would really signal, obviously winning would signal a new change and all that, but what was the biggest thing that ended up being kind of the death knell for Seth Luttrell was that non-conference games and then games against teams that he would eventually face in the conference in AAC. I think until you go back to, I think it was when they beat UTSA in Denton 2 years ago. I think at the last game of the season.
It was 2021.
Right. Last year, I think they played 5 games against future eventual AAC, and they only beat Rice. Right. They got slaughtered by SMU. You mentioned the Memphis game, and they lost both games against UTSA. And so I think that eventually was kind of like, is this the guy to help us go into this new conference where we're going to be facing these teams every single week? And again, obviously a win would help that. And yes, that's stating the obvious. But like, I do think this is a big week because this is the first time. I mean, I know they played Tulane last week, but this is the first time that you're facing a team last year where you're saying, well, we're going to be playing those guys next year. You know, it's like, how do we match up, right? And you mentioned it, homecoming too. That's another added factor. It's going to be their best crowd probably they've had in a while, maybe since the Cal game. What time is it? What time is this one?
2 p.m.
2 p.m., so like a decent kickoff time. Like it's not going to be an 11, right?
Mallory's going to be there, right?
I sure will be.
Yeah, so there you
Call.
go. There you go. There you go. Again.
But as a fan,
yeah.
don't expect updates.
She's
as
like,
a
don't follow
fan.
my Twitter for updates.
No.
The student section is going to be warring with Seth Hennigan's section right next to each other.
The Seth Hennigan
gosh.
fan section, all from Denton Ryan.
Literally.
But yeah, this is going to be a massive game just to showcase what the program's headed towards. So I think UNT covers. I'm going to say that. I'm going to say that.
Wait, what was the spread again? I'm
7.5.
so bad to remember.
Memphis 7.5.
Ooh, that's kind of tight.
Ooh, 7.5 actually. I thought it was double digits.
I think I'm taking Memphis to cover.
Memphis covers
Oh,
slightly.
come on.
I'm going to say
You're
10.
going to the game.
I'm going to say Memphis covers, but
yeah,
I'm going to say
but I can still think they're going to lose.
I'm going to say 10. I'm going to say by 10.
Yeah, that feels right.
Yeah, I think Memphis covers too.
Over here. Accusing her.
Jeez. Okay, moving on. Ugh. Baylor hosting Iowa State this Saturday at 2:30 p.m. You can watch it on Big 12 Network or ESPN Plus. Iowa State coming in as 1.5 point favorites.
Oh, God.
The over/under is 47.5.
Yeah.
Ooh.
I'm
Fun.
I'll just take. I'm taking Iowa State.
Yeah.
I'll just say that first of all. I don't know what to think of this Iowa State. Apparently, I mean, their quarterback looks pretty good. Like, I know they had their whole like gambling scenario, but like this Rocco Beck guy actually looks pretty good for a freshman.
Yeah.
So like, I think he's actually pretty solid. A year ago, if you would have asked me, oh yeah, Dave Aranda gets a week to prepare for a freshman quarterback, yeah, give me Baylor. But I was like, I don't. What gives me confidence that they can stop him? He's not exactly lighting the field up, but he's just showing enough stuff to where I feel confident in Iowa State. So I think they're on they've won 3 out of the last 4. They don't look as bad as I thought they'd be this year. So
Well, that's them, Iowa State, and Oklahoma State. It was like, how are you guys this good?
That's true.
Because both of those teams had the worst vibes going into the season.
Yeah.
Like, Oklahoma State had Spencer Sanders, who probably could have gotten a statue, just transferred to be a backup somewhere else. Like, they had a mass exodus from their program. Iowa State, is in the clink now with gambling before they go into the season.
I will say Oklahoma State did the old strategy of we got to play 7 quarterbacks, but then play the one that we played at the beginning, and then we'll be good.
I just
'Cause
haven't.
that's what happened. Alan Bowman started
That's literally what happened.
Alan Bowman started the year. Then they played Garrett Rangel. Then they played Gunnar Gundy, and then it's just been Alan Bowman, and they've been fine.
Mike Gundy had to see what type of quarterback his son was.
Yeah,
he just had to make
true.
sure.
He was like,
True.
actually, never mind. He was like, never mind.
Has Baylor won a home game yet?
No,
Nope.
I don't
I
think
don't think
so.
so either.
I don't think so either.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, they had their winnable game unfortunately against Tech.
No, they beat Long Island at home.
They did.
Okay, well.
There's a game where everybody was like, well, that wasn't any
That was,
better.
there we go. Yeah,
There
that's
was one
it.
game in the
That's it.
state that they won, and they were like, yeah, nobody was happy about
No.
that.
And it was like 31-10. It was like, what?
It was like 31-10, and Baylor Twitter was falling apart.
I know.
I think they had didn't Long Island have like a goal line stop or something against them? And it was like, oh god,
It was kind of close there for a second.
Yeah.
Well, because what happened is it was like 16-7, and then they went into a 4-hour rain delay.
That's also
And I
true.
tweeted, I was like, Baylor's gonna have 14 people in the stands when this gets back kicked off.
Yeah. So what we're trying to say is Iowa State comfortably. I think.
I think so, too.
I mean,
They
the
cover.
spread the spread being that low is honestly very surprising. I think it's like at least a touchdown. At least.
Yeah, I think so too.
Ooh, I kind of want to take Baylor. I kind of want to lean back into Baylor.
Look, they tried to spit up last week. I would love to expect that that kind of continues the good vibes going, but they tried so hard to
They
lose last
really
week.
did.
They really did.
I was on my phone following that game, and I turned it off because I was like, oh, they're up pretty comfortably right now. And then I turned it back and I was like, ooh, ish. They're trying to literally give this game away. It's a 3-point game now. So.
Yeah, I just don't think Baylor's able to move the ball. The one, like I mentioned, Rocco Beck at quarterback, but like Iowa State's defense is still Iowa State good.
Yeah.
And that's why I think Baylor's not going to be able to do anything. This could be like 17-3 for all I know.
The wide zone versus Iowa State defense. It's gonna be tough.
It's gonna be no, just no. What's just no.
All right, let's move on. Texas, number 8 Texas hosting BYU this Saturday at 2:30 p.m. You can watch it on ABC. Texas coming in as a whopping 17.5 point favorite. The over-under is 51.5. Can Malik Murphy get it done?
Yeah, let's talk about the obvious. Quinn Ewers, I believe the exact status is week to week, right? From Sark.
Probably going to be more like 3 weeks, though.
Probably. Yeah, from everything looking like.
Week to week for a month.
Right. I did appreciate that he didn't say day to day.
Day to day. I was just about to say
he's like,
that,
no,
yeah.
it's a little bit longer than that. He's like, no, it's not going to be, no. Look, I mean, Malik Murphy came in against Houston. So, like, and all the talk was that he is the second guy, right? He is the backup guy. So they're preparing. I know Arch Manning is taking snaps with the first team, but that's more of a preparation in case.
Dude, I don't. I'm just.
Well,
I'm so worried.
No, I am. Here's the thing. I am too, but like Malik Murphy is somebody who's battled injury since he's come out of high school, right? Like he was hurt. He didn't get to play his senior year because of COVID. He came out of high school kind of nursing an injury. Didn't get to play at all last year because he's battling an injury as well. And I think it's smart to have. I know the rumors about Arch is like, oh, is this going to be Arch's? I think it's legitimately smart to have him taking snaps with the first team, because you just can't have him go out there again. The spring game was what it was. I don't take too much credence from that, but what I did take from that is he's not quite ready, which is okay. He came from the equivalent of like 3A in Louisiana, right? I still think he has all the tools, all the things to become great, but you also don't want to go out there with him not ready in case, Malik Murphy tweaks something, and just in case.
Right.
Like, I know he's not that type of runner. He's not a physical runner, despite what people may think. He's not a runner really at all. But it's going to be a different offense, and I wonder – I think it's smart on Sark to just have him ready to go just in case. Just in case. Now,
you're making me feel better.
I think that's the thing. Now, here's where I will raise your anxiety again. What happens if BYU with Keaton Slovis, 37-year-old Keaton Slovis, goes out there in the opening drive, scores, Malik Murphy 3 and out?
What happens when Malik Murphy just fires a 5-yard out 10 yards over his receiver's head on his first pass?
Yeah, that was the other thing. They didn't throw that much with him, but
No.
the passes they did throw last week were kind of off. And again, sure, he probably wasn't prepared to go in, right? But a little concerning, right?
I tell you, every incomplete pass they're going to show Arch Manning on the sideline.
They will absolutely. ESPN has a mandate, or Fox or whoever has this
It's going to
game.
be in the pregame. I'm getting pre-mad. I'm pre-mad right now. I'm so mad about watching the broadcast of this game.
Yeah.
Everyone's like, 5-star freshman, Arch Manning is back there.
It's going to happen.
Every incomplete's just panning on his face, standing right next to Sark.
And that's where
Sark's just shaking his head.
Exactly. Yeah, no, 100%. I think that going into this game, I think that's what Sark's doing by playing Arch. It's just in case, have this kid ready with some snaps.
Right.
And during the game, that is another thing. He's at the mercy. It's not like he's going to make a decision for the fans. But the fans and the environment have their own perception of things, right? And they're going to, like you mentioned, Malik Murphy goes 3 and out. Well, we saw Arch taking first-team snaps. What's going on? And it's like, oh, here we go. And so that's what my question is. Is there a leash at all? Is it short or is it long, as in, hey, it's 21-0 BYU, we're not moving the offense, boom, Arch goes in. Or is it, okay, we've had 2 3-and-outs, BYU's up 10-3,
I think it's more along those lines.
Right? So that's what I'm a little intrigued by. And also, the other big question, which is I'll let you kind of go from here, how much does Quinn Ewers' absence, whoever's at quarterback, how much does it matter? This is how big is this for this team?
I think it still is big. I think Quinn's gotten a little bit of flack for being kind of a game manager this year, and he hasn't been. He's not super impressive. He's just got all these great guys around him. I think Quinn's done exactly what he needed to do this year. He's had a really solid season. I do think he has a calm demeanor about him to where he's able to maintain everyone's nerves a little bit. And I feel like Malik Murphy coming in or a younger quarterback coming in, there's just going to be more mistakes. There's going to be 1 to 2 mistakes in this game that might not matter because BYU is not the caliber of team that Texas is. But if they play Kansas State in a couple weeks without Quinn Ewers, then that's going to be an issue.
Yeah. I'm very intrigued to see this because I'm a Malik Murphy believer. Right, I do see a lot of Texas media. I do see them doing their Malik Murphy kind of I don't want to say recaps or PR tour. That's kind of a pejorative, but I do see them saying this guy's improved a lot. We have seen a different person. He had a chance to transfer and he didn't, and this is his chance. So I do see kind of the media wise getting behind.
They're plugged. The
Yeah.
people who are plugged in are
Yes.
Malik Murphy people.
Yes, and like everything I've heard about him is like they want him to succeed.
Mm-hmm.
Like everybody, like literally players, staff, people who've covered him, like they believe in him and they really do think he's like genuinely really good and genuinely really good teammate. So I'll say this: if it comes from,
But then
if-
the national media is like, man, I
I was
don't
about to say,
know.
that it's going to be the outside that's going to be pushing the Arch Manning thing because
That
again,
gets views.
the people, 100%, they're going to get views, and the people who are plugged in, again, they saw the spring game, and it's like there is a level that I don't know how much in 6 months is going to change.
Yeah.
Right now. So again, give him an off season. Sure, he's probably going to be the quarterback that people thought, but right now at this moment, yeah, put the guy that's been there for multiple years and was your chosen quarterback at one point, right? Before you even knew you had Quinn Ewers coming back, like was chosen to lead your program. So figure it out.
All right. Let's close it out with UTSA hosting East Carolina this Saturday at 2:30 p.m. You can watch it on ESPN Plus. UTSA coming in as 19-point favorites, over under 47.5.
Yeah.
East Carolina's bad.
Yeah,
Carolina's pretty bad.
UTSA's good. That's
They
about
look to
it.
be turning the corner. I mean, they
Yeah.
really do. Everything they're healthier. One, right? They look healthier.
Except for Jeff Trailer.
Except for Jeff, who injured his.
Ooh,
Yeah, what was
good
that? It was like a
one. Good
mouse
one.
trap
It
thing.
was. Yeah, he put out a bunch of mouse traps around the locker room with to remind his players to not.
Eat the
Take-
cheese.
Wait,
Not-
really?
Oh, you don't know the story?
You didn't know that? Oh
So-
yeah,
so
and then one of his
Trailer-
players handed him one, and it.
So Trailer, yeah. So
hurt his
Trailer,
hand.
so Trailer has a saying, and this goes back to again East Texas guy.
Yes.
This goes back to last year where it's "Don't eat the cheese," and it's a phrase, and it's basically trap games like this. Like
Yes.
Trap, like your favorite. And it definitely plays more in Conference USA where they're playing teams that they should absolutely roll every single week.
Yeah.
But it started last year, I think, and it's a phrase where it's just like, "Don't eat the cheese," like don't buy into the hype. Don't get trapped. And so apparently, yeah, he set up mouse traps all over, and one of his players handed him one, and it went off
And he
on his
took it
finger.
off
And he took it, and it went off on his finger. And so Craven tweeted out the photo of his busted finger.
It got like national attention
Yeah.
too. It hurt. It looked like it hurt.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's hilarious that you put all the mouse traps there and then you got caught in one.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like when Jalen Hurts used to talk about the rat poison accidentally eating the pill
Yeah.
or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, actually, I think it was. I don't know. Did he set them or did just like the team set them?
I thought Trailer did.
Because I think the original tweet was from JJ Perez saying players got rat traps out in their lockers. So like I don't know if it was like he and the staff put them out
That'd
there.
be so funny
or
if you
like,
didn't know they were there.
I know, right? And he literally just got caught in a mousetrap. But no, apparently the one part that is true is that somebody gave him one and it went off. So like,
Yeah.
but I don't know who started it or whatever.
So is that like foreshadowing
Yeah,
to
that's what I
this
was
weekend?
thinking.
Like I don't know.
Is Mike Houston's team about to come into the Alamo Dome and wreck shop?
Look, I'm at least going to take East Carolina to cover after that.
Yeah, I know. Right, exactly.
Oh yeah, that's
19 points is too much when your coach got
Right.
his finger snapped by
That's
a
what I'm
mouse trap.
saying. That's what I'm saying. I don't know.
It's feel like it's only been like a week or so since they played at home, but I feel like they've been. Oh, that's because that was the last home game since like September 15th. Okay, that's why I feel like I haven't seen many highlights of them in the dome this year because they've only been there
That's a
once
good
in the past
point.
month.
Yeah.
That's why I think they roll. It's just because they're going to be happy to be back. But yeah, East Carolina's not very good this year. I think they've taken a step back as far as what Mike Houston's been building, which has been something pretty solid. I just realized they barely snuck by Charlotte 10-7 last week.
yeah. No.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna take UTSA to cover, but that's not a good hint towards what's coming.
No.
I'm taking East Carolina to cover.
Oh, okay then.
All right, all right.
What are you taking? I thought you were
I was
riding
about
with
to say,
me
I
on
thought
that
you were.
one.
I was about to say, I thought you were sounding like you were going with them.
I don't know though, because I just feel again like it's at home for the first time in a month. I think I'm changing my mind.
You
I think-
you dropped the like. Is that a bad omen? And I was like, yes, I think so. And
Yeah,
you're
I
like,
was
I don't
quite-
think so. That's dumb.
I'm kidding.
Boom.
Boo. No, I don't know. I think I'm gonna take UTSA to cover. I'm sorry.
All right.
I'm gonna go with
They
that.
are clicking at the right time,
They are.
and it is.
Frank Harris is healthy.
Frank Harris is healthy, and we've never seen a Jeff Traylor team come out flat.
No.
Really haven't, unless there's been like injury or something behind it. So,
Right.
yeah, I don't know. I do like that Jeff Traylor also said it would have killed a lesser man
yeah, that was hard.
Yeah, I
that was
know.
so hard.
literally.
to the mousetrap. So,
And then two teams on bye weeks: Texas Tech and TCU.
Loss.
But
TCU lost.
TCU already lost the
Take the
bye
bye.
week. Yeah.
Take the bye plus
Yeah.
-4. Yeah, two teams that need
Loss.
vibe rest. They need vibe rest desperately. I think they play each other next week, right?
Do they
I think,
really?
I think that's correct. I think I looked that up on Sunday, and I think they play each other. And so it's just like,
tasty.
as
Talk
an-
about anxiety.
I was about to say,
ball.
there's an
Yeah,
anxiety ball right there. That's a fun one.
seriously.
All right, that'll do it for us. Please watch UTEP and Sam tonight. It should be legitimately. I'm very interested in that game, despite the anxiety and all that. I'm actually just interested in the matchup straight up. Please follow, like, listen, subscribe to every podcast that we do on the Republican Football Network. Remember promo code DCTF. Where's my finger pointing? There it is, right there. Promo code DCTF for 15% off your first time order at homefieldapparel.com. Thanks to Homefield Apparel. Thanks for all of our shows on the Republic of Football. And Jimbo Fisher, give us a call. And Rutgers, go Rutgers. They got to bowl eligibility, and that's all that matters going forward.
Go Rutgers.